Hello there, people of the internet. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. I don't know what time it is whenever you're watching this video. So premise of this video, a buddy of mine, well, I wouldn't really call him a buddy of mine. I wouldn't even call him an acquaintance. Someone I know who knows absolutely nothing about firearms decided to ask me about some information on getting their first firearm. They were like, hey, since I'm so entry level, should I go with something cheap? Or, you know, since I want something that'll last a while, should I go with something expensive? Well, there's a lot of factors that play into this question. As a matter of fact, I went ahead and I just kind of decided myself to go ahead and make a whole video on the thing. Shout out to GOA and FPC. Well, the first thing that I asked this guy was I asked him, what is the application? And he says, I want to be able to protect myself, but I also want to be able to take it hunting. Well, okay, what's your budget? He said, well, I'm very open to suggestions. And I'm like, okay, well, hell, get yourself an AK-47, 5-round magazine and 30-round magazine, 30-round for home defense. You know, they got the scope mount on it, you know, perfect rifle right there. And he was like, well, I kind of want a few more options than that. He's one of those kind of people that wants a rifle but doesn't want one of those scary rifles. So I was like, okay, well, there's a lot to unpack with this situation. So I started talking to the guy and I told him there's a lot of modern day manufactured firearms if you're wanting something modern day. Well, if you're wanting the cheap route, hell, bolt action rifles, I mean, that's kind of my go-to since this guy was one of those, you know, non-scary rifle guys. Bolt action rifles, you could use it for home defense, I suppose, and you could still use it for hunting. If you're going to go out, you know, for a couple of hours, you know, 2 or 3 times a year, get yourself a Savage Axis. They're not very expensive. $300 will get you in the door on that. Unfortunately, they rust, you know, like crazy. So if you're going to be out there for any real length of time, or if you're going to go walking through, you know, the woods whenever it's raining or humid outside, you're going to have a problem with it rusting. If that's not something you care about, then hey, $300, get yourself a Savage Axis. And then he was talking about how his grandfather used to own some rifle in 30-06, and he kind of wanted one of those. Well, I'm like, the military surplus world is such a phenomenon, however that word's pronounced, such a wide variety of different things to discover that just sitting here talking to you about it, like, we could go on for hours. I started to explain to him that, like, one 30-06 rifle could be worth a lot of money, whereas another 30-06 rifle could not be worth much at all. I told him if he's looking to, you know, go on week-long hunting trips, a good military surplus rifle would serve him really well. I told him, get yourself a 30-06 1917 that's been sporterized. That'd be great for hunting. Not only that, but with the 1917 rifles, especially if they have their original bluing, you definitely don't have to worry about the rusting on them nearly as much as you do the Savage Axis. That'd be perfect if you're going to be out there for any real length of time. Of course, they run, you know, the 1917 rifles, they run typically around $300 as well, $350 for a nice one, especially if they've been sporterized, so you're in the same price range. Do you want something new or something old? In this particular case, he wanted something old. So I asked him, how much firepower are you wanting? Are you looking to take down elephants, or are you looking to take down, you know, raccoons? And he said, I'd like something kind of in between. So, okay, 30-06 will take care of basically everything in North America. 308 will do the same thing. Price ranges on all this stuff vary, very greatly. For example, this right here is one of the cheapest rifles I have. This is a 308 Oviedo Mauser. I hesitate to say 308 because it's actually 7.62 set-me, but it can run 7.62 NATO ammunition well enough. I dropped about $80 on this rifle, and it's got iron sights on it. Mounting a scope to it would be a little bit more on the difficult side, but if you're looking for, you know, an iron sight rifle, you can't go wrong with one of these. One thing I really like about these military surplus rifles is they can be loaded with a stripper clip. One of the things that I dislike about the surplus stripper clips is they don't always work all that well. But 80 bucks with some 7.62 NATO ammo, and you're not a lot of money in the hole to have something that can actually put down some pretty good firepower. Whenever I start blasting rounds, you're probably going to hear Kevin. He's my peacock. I got 4 of them. They're noisy birds. All right, let's send it. Thank you, Kevin. This is such a nice little rifle for 80 bucks. Man, I can't get over how cheap these things are. Actually, that is a very nice little rifle. I'm probably going to come out here and shoot that later just because it's so cheap to shoot. The 7.62 NATO ammo right now during this time of shortage is a little bit more expensive than usual, but it's still doable. Now with that rifle right there, you can take down pretty much anything, you know, in this half of the world. Now if you're going on an African safari, and you're taking on something like a rhino, I don't know what it is that you're out there doing. First of all, you might want to rethink what you're doing if you're taking this rifle out to Africa to fight a rhino. Get some help. But with this rifle right here, you can pretty much put any kind of anything on your table that you're wanting to put on your table. Hopefully. I mean, it depends on what you're wanting to put on your table, I guess. Now there's just an example of a really, really cheap rifle that I got that I can lay down some pretty good firepower with. The 1917s that I was talking about earlier, 30-06. Pretty much the same firing capabilities, unless you're going out to some real significant distances. You're not going to really notice much of a difference. Of course, there are 30-06 rifles, like this M1 Garand or Garand, or however you want to pronounce that. This M1 rifle right here, chambered in 30-06. This right here is a semi-automatic. This one in this configuration probably run about 1,500 bucks. Way, way, way more expensive than this rifle right here. Of course, if you're wanting a cheap semi-automatic that still puts down a good amount of firepower, get yourself an SKS. There's sporterized SKSs out there that you can pick up for around $250 to $300, depending on their configuration and how nice a condition they're in. This right here is what I would consider a luxury firearm. This is something that people spend money on because they want this specific gun. So if you're not looking for a specific firearm, then there's plenty of other options out there that you can get the same amount of firepower from for less money. Hell, in a lot of ways, the SKS is actually better than the Garand. The Garand is very ammo specific, and if you don't have a adjustable gas system in it, you can mess up your operating rod and therefore mess up your rifle. Not only that, but for 300 bucks for an SKS, you can get a lot of ammo in comparison to this M1 Garand. And if you're not firing at targets beyond 300, 400 yards, then it doesn't matter whether or not you're firing 30-06 or 7.62x39. Now some people are going to want to see me shoot this thing. 30-06 is kind of expensive right now, so I've only got a half clip loaded into this thing. I am running not the right ammo, so I do have my gas system adjusted for this particular kind of ammunition. Let's see if we can hear the ping. Honestly, I specifically wanted to come out here today to fire this rifle. It is just such a pleasure to shoot. And man, that 30-06, it's hitting that target so hard. There's that Garand ping. Alright, now the fun part. Where the hell's my clip? There it is. I think I've got this thing gassed just right to not mess up the operating rod, but still cycle reliably-ish. This steel case ammo I'm running is kind of hot, but I don't want to. I'd rather run the gun undergassed than overgassed. So those are two rifles right there that you could pretty much run the same applications for, but one is a lot cheaper than the other. So in terms of looking for something that's cheap or expensive, what are you doing with it? If it's a home defense gun, get yourself, an AR-15. 223, Not a lot of over penetration because they pretty much break apart upon impact. Not only that, but for, you know, $500 to $600, you can get yourself a good entry-level AR-15 that's going to serve you well. I wouldn't recommend going hunting with it because the 223 isn't something I'd really rely on to take on bigger game. I don't really want to say medium game because it can be done, but like your larger medium game to your larger game, I wouldn't recommend using 223 for hunting. But if you're one of those people that don't like the scary rifles, then by all means get yourself a rifle that doesn't look scary, like your SKS. Not a lot of money for a semi-automatic. You can get yourself the aftermarket magazines that hold more ammunition. People are scared of those though, but hey, if you keep the original magazine in it, you can get the stripper clips loaded from the top. You can get real good at doing that real quickly. Lay down a lot of firepower with that thing for not a lot of money. If you're looking for something to just hang on your wall and take out twice a year and you want something bolt action, Savage Axis. I mean, it served me well. Or there's like a whole plethora of different firearms that are bolt action, polymer stock, that are in the same price range. Do your homework depending on what it is that you want. Like Mossberg, they got their Patriot series, and there's the Thompson Centers, and there's all sorts of different firearms at that price range that serve basically the same purpose. Or you get yourself a military surplus for, you know, a lot cheaper, or not necessarily a lot cheaper, but a lot better quality for the same price. Or if you're insisting on something modern manufacture and you are going to use it very regularly for long periods of time and you want something that's going to last the rest of your life, go with something like in a medium price range. You know, $700 will get you a really, really nice rifle, especially with today's modern manufacturing standards, in comparison to the rifles that you would get several years ago for the same price. And take into consideration, you know, how far are you shooting? How far are you lobbing lead? If your target, you know, your normal distance of shooting is below 300 yards, which most people are, like, unless you are going out of your way to fire at targets way at a distance, most of your shooters are going to be at 300 yards. Your cheaper rifles will be able to handle that no problem. But if you're touching out to any real significant distance, you're going to want something that has a decent barrel, decent trigger, something that you can sight in really well, something that you can hopefully mount an optic to easily. A lot of your military surplus guns, unless they've already been sporterized to mount optics, mounting some optics to them are going to be a little bit more challenging. But there's a ton of sporterized military surplus out there, and honestly my heart drops whenever I think about just how much military surplus out there has been sporterized. Gotta go ahead and throw the hat over the heart for this one. Alright, well, thanks for watching, guys. The moral of the story, I guess it depends on the application that you're looking to use it at. If you are a new shooter, get yourself something entry level, learn how to use it, learn how to maintain it. Or if you are an avid shooter, by all means, like if you know what you're doing, you can run a $350 rifle, no problem. Now there are the higher end luxury rifles that I like to call them. Like, you know, once you hit about $1,500, you stop going from practicality and necessity to, you know, extreme quality and luxury items. Like for example, the M1 Garand right there. I could achieve exactly what the M1 Garand does for a lot less money and still have a pretty nice rifle after all that is said and done. Okay, well, I think I need to go sit down. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to the channel for more because I do this stuff all the time. If you like the video, do me a solid and actually like the video. Every like, every subscription, every share definitely helps out. Description down below, you're gonna find a link to all sorts of social medias and discords and things like that. Okay, I'm gonna go grab something to drink. You guys go off, have a fantastic day. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. It's a shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.